Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about transferring energy. Now all that this means is when we start off with energy in one store and then we end up with energy in another store. We're looking at how to draw diagrams to show how energy goes from one store to another, and we need to know the 4 different mechanisms by which it does this. So the 4 different mechanisms we need to know is, first of all, mechanically. Now whenever we're talking about the transfer mechanically, this is when forces are involved. The second one we need to know is electrically. So this is whenever we have some kind of charge moving around a circuit. So work is being done against resistance. Number 3, the other one we need to know is by heating. So this is whenever we've got energy being transferred from hotter to colder. And finally, the 4th one we need to know is by radiation. Now this is whenever we have waves involved. Now this might seem a little confusing, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use examples for an example for each one in order to show you what I mean. So let's imagine an example of energy being transferred mechanically is in a ball falling. So we start off holding the ball high and then we let it go. So what we need to do to draw one of these diagrams is think, first of all, what is the store at the beginning? It starts off in the gravitational potential energy store. So to show that it's in a store, I draw it in a box like this. Now, what type of energy does it end up as? So as I let go of it, it moves. So as it moves, it's in the kinetic energy store. Again, because it's a store, I've drawn it in a box like this. So remember, whenever we have forces acting, we need to show that it's mechanically. Now to show this, we show an arrow going from our starting energy store to our ending energy store. And above that arrow, I just write mechanically. Now what this shows is we started with gravitational potential energy store, we've gone to the kinetic energy store, and we've done this mechanically. So whenever we've got anything involving forces, it's mechanically. Okay, I'm going to show you an example when the transfer is electrically. So let's imagine that we've got a battery-powered fan. So there's my battery there, goes in, here's my little fan right here. So in order for my fan to work, I need this, this battery to be attached, okay? So let's again think about the initial store. The starting store is chemical energy store. Now again, because it's a store, I put it in a box. And I'm thinking, what is my ending store? Again, this fan is going to move around. So I'm going to transfer energy into the kinetic energy store. Now, because this is transferred by electrical charges flowing around the circuit, my arrow showing the transfer from one to another is going to have the word electrically written above the arrow. So again, this shows we started off the chemical energy store, we ended up with the chemical energy store. Because we've got charges moving, it's been transferred electrically. 2 more to go. So whenever we've got heating, transfer by heating, we need to have something going from hotter to colder. So what I'm going to show you right now is an example. So let's say we've got this saucepan, which is here, heating on the hob. Okay? So to begin with, let's think about the energy within the hob. It starts off as a thermal energy store. Now this often confuses people because we're transferring it into these water molecules here. So we're also transferring it to a thermal energy store. It just so happens it's just in a different particular place. So how have we got from this thermal store to this thermal store? The answer is by heating. Because we've gone from hotter to colder. So finally, the last type of transferring energy is by radiation. So a nice example of this is how the sun heats up the air, or heats us up on Earth. Now, this isn't by heating, because in order for the heat energy, thermal energy from the sun to get to the earth, it travels in waves. So radiation is whenever you have things traveling in waves, such as radiation when it's to do with heat transfer, and also things like light. So again, we've got thermal energy store to begin with, because that's the store of energy, thermal energy within the sun. We're heating up the air particles on Earth, so we've got thermal energy store on Earth right there. And this time, the way that it's transferred is radiation. So, just to summarise, whenever you're showing energy transfers, you always start off by writing one store, the starting store, and putting it in a box, and you write the finishing store. Where does the energy end up in another box? What you then need to do is draw an arrow between the two boxes with an arrow going that way to show the energy has started off here and it's ended up over here. And above the arrow, you need to write mechanically, if it's to do with forces, electrically, if there's a charge moving, by heating, if there's energies moving from hotter to colder, or radiation, if waves are involved. Thank you very much.